guys, it's me again. And yes, my shirt says you are witnessing greatness. If you have an issue with it, take it up with my kids or my husband because they got it for me. You know that I started this podcast and I've been kind of figuring out what I want to talk about and wanting to produce something that means something and gets somewhere and that people see and that people can relate to, but also wanting to stay authentic. And it's really hard trying to produce content on social media because when you are an authentic person and when it's not all about monetization, you may not move as quickly. But I'm willing to take that risk because at the end of the day, I feel like it's what I'm called to do, like I've shared before, and it is what it is. So today I wanted to talk about my business. Um, for those of you who don't know, I have been doing Renew You for, gosh, probably like 8.5 years now. And I've been in the beauty industry for 10 years, a little over 10 years at this point. And earlier this year, I started my doula business. And I wanted to talk about business and I wanted to talk about kind of what I've learned about business and what I'm doing with my business. And one thing that I've learned about business is that if you have it on your heart to do it, and if you have a business idea and you feel like God's leading you in that direction, do it. If you feel like you are being called to do something, do it. If you have a passion for something, if you have something that comes to you naturally, do it. Because I hate this idea that work has become something that people are so comfortable being miserable in. And I understand the need to make money. I feel like some of the things I say sometimes people are like, "What world is this girl living in?" Well, I'm living in the same world that you're living in. I'm living in this economy as well. I understand real life and how this works. Um, but I also understand risk, and I understand that as much as we want to secure ourselves, there's really no job security in anything. I would actually argue that you have probably more security if you have matters in your own hands, right? Than if you work for an establishment that can get rid of you for any reason at any time. Aside from that, I'm always thinking about, what will even be relevant, a decade from now. I feel like the world is moving so quickly in terms of technology and advancement and AI. And it's like, what are we even going to be necessary for in a decade? There are still a lot of things that we will be necessary for, but, you know, how can we be innovative and how can we get ahead of the curve? I kind of saw, I love Renew You and I will always love Renew You, and Renew You is my baby and I still do it. Like, a lot of people don't realize that. They don't realize that I still do it. Um but I do feel like after a decade I have kind of exhausted any growth that I am willing to do. Could I still grow it? Could I still do it? Of course I could. But do I want to is another question. I would rather stick with what I know and stick with my regulars and continue those relationships and continue that security while forging another path that I'm more passionate about. And so the New Day Doula was born. And I started that back in March. March 3rd, I believe, was the launch. And since that time, I've been learning a lot and I've been doing a lot of networking. To me, this year was never about making money. This year was about growing and really building my foundation and refining it. And one thing that I learned, and one thing that I know that a lot of business owners, especially if you've stood the test of time, is the importance of both tradition and staying true to who you are and what people expect of you and expectation, but also being innovative and pivoting. I love that word, pivoting when you need to and pivoting when the time is right and making changes when you need to make those changes. What started off as like a postpartum doula business, I'm actually, and I don't know if when this video comes out this will be public or not, but I'm actually pivoting into more of an agency where I will still be a provider, but I want to essentially turn it into a birth and postpartum doula agency, but I also want to offer childcare. So think like Babysitters Club, right? You reach out to me and I would hook you up with a babysitter that is well suited for you. The other way that I want to kind of pivot is doing supervised visits. So for those of you who are in Ulster County and surrounding areas, if you have, you co-parent with someone and you need someone to supervise those visitations for any reason, and your relationship is compromised for whatever reason, I want to supply those services as well. Those are existing services, but we, I think, have a shortage in our area, and people don't even know that those services exist. I did not know that it existed until probably a couple of months ago. Yeah, not only did I want to talk about my business and what I'm doing, but I wanted to just talk about being a business owner and what that means in this area and in this time. It's really, you have to be innovative, you have to think ahead, you have to, I think, stay true. Like, there are many opportunities for you to make money, but are you being true to yourself? Are you being true to your moral compass? Are you being a person of integrity while chasing money? Because money is fleeting, but the relationships that you build with people and the trust that you develop with people has to mean more than that. And then the money will come naturally. It's funny because I recently heard about this concept of like a mini retirement, I think it's called. And I think a lot of women are, it's when you hit this like crossroad and you want to just reinvent yourself, financially and in the work world. You want to completely do something new. You want to chase a dream. And I think a lot of us women are there now. I'm seeing a common trend in this direction with this mini retirement where you just need a little bit of time to breathe and figure out like what is it that you want to be in the workforce world, if anything. Maybe work is not on your heart's desire at all. For some of us it is, and for others it's conditional, right? It's based on more. So I want to encourage you guys to go after the things that you're passionate about and that you dream about, and the things that you might deem impossible, because there really is no thing as job security, no matter what. You can have the degree, take all the trainings, have all the experience, and spend all the years at this job, and that job can still close. That job can still replace you. Um, there really is no such thing as job security. Even when dealing with, illness, how many people just expect to get ill or whatever it may be, you know? I think I'm a good example of just taking the risk. I decided to go into business when I first went into business because I had literally nothing left to lose. I was in such a bad place financially and even in some regards mentally. And I really had to ask myself, where do I want to be? How do I want my life to look? I remember finding out that I was pregnant with my son back in 2014. I was 24 years old, and I was approaching the time where I was going to have him, and I remember like sitting in cosmetic programs trying to figure out what school to go to, thinking about the fact that I no longer wanted to work every holiday and a 9 to 5. I didn't want to work every weekend. So I did something about it, and here I am now. And one business is going to stay linear by choice. The other one is going to grow, and I'm, me, my husband told me years ago that he had to come to terms with the fact that like I'll never be done. I will never arrive. There's always more to do. I don't feel called to be average. I feel called to greatness. Not only is that my heart's desire, but it's God's will for our life, all of our lives. And it's not about what we're doing for a living, to be clear. It's about the impact that we're making while we're doing it. I feel very satisfied with the work that I have provided my clients and the relationships that I've built. It's incredible. The resources. I mean, I owe so much to Renew You. I owe so much to the doula business already. Um, but I'll never stop, and I'll never stop growing. But yeah, I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about the importance of chasing your dreams and chasing your vision and chasing the desires that God is putting on your heart. They're not there for no reason. They're not nagging and pulling at the inside of you for no reason. It's all for a purpose. I feel so incredibly blessed at 35 to have lived the last decade and learned the things that I've learned and flourish in the way that I've flourished. And I'm happy with who I've become, and I'm happy with the people in my life and the situations that I put myself in. Part of having wisdom in the business world is, like I said, knowing when to pivot, knowing when to make changes, knowing when to answer the call. I feel like, you ever have that feeling? I've had it lately where you just feel like something big is coming. That's how I feel. That's how I have felt this year. This entire last 12 months, I have just felt like something big is coming. And I've been praying a lot, and I have fasted, gone to church, I've been in the Word, spent time with my family. I've learned a lot of skills. I've gotten another degree, and it all serves a purpose. It is so true that God has a plan, and things will happen exactly when they need to happen, how they need to happen. And it's funny because as I'm making this, I know that I have a testimony shortly after to share about where I'm headed and where things are going. I just want to encourage all of you. I I realize that sometimes when I speak, how it can be received. And I'm sure that there are some women out there who look at me as ignorant because, yeah, easier said than done. Like, you have a husband, you have a business, and you have two businesses now, and you have everything that you have. But you have to remember, if you even know, that I came from absolutely nothing. My story was very different before I met my husband. My story was even more different before that, before I even knew who he was. I've been the single mom. I've been the heartbroken mom. I've been the practically homeless mom. I was the mom that drove herself home from the hospital on the first, day 3 of having my first child. I drove myself, not even home, to a family from the church's home that was willing to take me in that time. And that came back to me as I was watching this show last night, where this young mom, was driving herself home from the hospital, and the dad was saying, well, look at how irresponsible she is. She couldn't take care of that kid. She drove that kid home alone. And I think about how I was put in that situation. The things that we go through in life are not meant to destroy us. They're meant to shape us. They're meant to build our character, and they're meant to refine us and teach us. A lot of what I've learned, I hope to share with other people. I'm very private, but what I am willing to share are some of the things that I've learned to strengthen other women. But I'm not one to play a victim, and I don't want to ever. Say all that to say, like, how important it is to push through and to not look at yourself as a victim, and not stay stuck, and not look at your life as something that you can't fix, because before you know it, if you're lucky, you'll be on your deathbed. And I say if you're lucky because some of us will die suddenly. Some of us, it'll be random, but for some of us, we'll get to prepare, and we'll see it coming, and we'll be able to have our final thoughts. But I just really want to encourage people out there who feel hopeless in terms of work and in terms of where your life is headed, that there are people like me who have been and are in the same circumstances, making it work, not because we're any better, smarter, anything else, but because we have God, because we have built up character going through hard times, because we don't play victim, because we get ourselves up out of the dirt, dust ourselves off, and keep going. So with much love, maybe a little bit of tough love, I wanted to really encourage you guys to get out there and get after it. Don't 10 years down the line, how in some ways I am now, wish that you did it already.